My name is Angela Reed and I just turned 32. Every year my family forgot my birthday while throwing lavish parties for my sister. This year I decided not to remind anyone. Instead, I used the $8 million reward no one knew about to buy myself a mountain retreat home in Aspen. The notifications went wild when I uploaded a photo next to my new property with the caption, "Special child celebrates alone." Again. Their furious comments started flooding in, accusing me of showing off and demanding explanations about where the money came from. I did it on purpose, and this time no one can forget that day. Before diving deeper into how I turned their neglect into my ultimate stand without a direct confrontation, I want to know what time you're listening and which city you're in. I'm thrilled to see how far my story spreads, so drop a comment below. Growing up in a gated Denver suburb felt like living in a glossy postcard where every house had a 3-car garage and neighbors competed over who threw the best 4th of July barbecue. Our sprawling 5-bedroom home was the envy of the block, all glass and stone with a backyard pool we rarely used. From the outside we were the picture-perfect family, but inside it was clear who the star was. My younger sister, 2 years my junior, the golden child everyone adored. My father, a real estate developer who'd made his fortune flipping properties during the tech boom, never missed a chance to praise my sister's potential. When she won her first spelling bee at 7, he threw a catered dinner for 50 guests complete with a custom cake shaped like a dictionary. I remember standing in the corner clutching my own award from the science fair, a solar panel model I'd spent weeks building, hoping he'd notice. He didn't. He just ruffled my hair and said, "Keep it up, kid," before turning back to the guests fawning over my sister. My mother, a former event planner who traded her career for charity boards, was even worse. She turned our living room into a shrine for my sister's achievements, shelves lined with her trophies, framed photos from dance recitals, even a newspaper clipping from when she won a local art contest. My straight A report cards and math Olympiad medals, they were stuffed in a kitchen drawer found years later when I was looking for spare batteries. The pattern started early. On my 11th birthday, I woke up expecting pancakes or at least a card. Instead, I found my parents packing suitcases for my sister's regional dance competition. They were so focused on her costume fittings that the day passed without a single mention of me turning 11. At dinner, my mother glanced at the calendar, gasped, and said, "Oh, honey, your birthday slipped our minds. We've been swamped with the competition prep." My father promised a belated celebration, but it never happened. They were too busy posting photos of my sister's silver medal online. It wasn't just that one year. My 15th birthday was overshadowed by a weekend trip to tour a prestigious art academy for my sister. My parents decided I'd stay with my grandmother because, as my mother put it, this is a big opportunity for her future. I spent the day eating oatmeal cookies and watching old sitcoms while my social media feed filled with their proud posts about the academy visit. My 18th birthday collided with my sister's high school valedictorian speech. They threw her a backyard gala with string lights and a live quartet. I got a text from my mother the next day. "So sorry, sweetie, yesterday was a whirlwind." My best friend since kindergarten was the only one who noticed the pattern. She'd been at our house enough to see how my parents lit up for my sister's every move while I faded into the background. During sleepovers, she'd whisper, "It's not fair, Angela. You're just as amazing." Her words were a lifeline, but they couldn't erase the sting of being invisible in my own home. Family gatherings made it worse. Aunts, uncles, and cousins would swarm my sister asking about her latest art project or college applications. I'd sit at the far end of the table, picking at my food, answering the occasional question about school with a forced smile. Once at a Thanksgiving dinner, an uncle asked about my robotics club win. Before I could answer, my mother steered the conversation back to my sister's upcoming gallery showcase. The room toasted her potential while I stared at my plate. By the time I was 16, the contrast was undeniable. I started keeping a notebook, jotting down every forgotten birthday, every overlooked achievement. It wasn't about self-pity, it was about proof. Each entry fueled a quiet resolve deep inside me, a spark that said, one day I'd make them see me. Not by begging for their attention, but by building something they couldn't ignore. That spark grew stronger with every slight, every missed moment. It wasn't just about being forgotten anymore, it was about proving I was enough. By 16, the weight of being invisible in my own family had settled deep in my chest. I couldn't keep pretending it didn't hurt. My notebook of forgotten birthdays and overlooked achievements was filling up each entry, a reminder that I needed to speak up. I spent weeks rehearsing what to say, choosing words that wouldn't sound petty or jealous. One evening when my sister was at a friend's house, I found my parents in the living room, Dad reading a business magazine, Mom scrolling through her phone planning another event for my sister's art portfolio. "Mom," Dad, can we talk? I asked, my voice steadier than I felt. Mom glanced up briefly, nodding, while Dad lowered his magazine with a sigh, already looking impatient. I took a deep breath and started. I feel like you treat me and my sister differently, like my accomplishments don't matter as much. You forget my birthdays, my awards, but everything she does gets a spotlight. My hand shook, but I kept going. It's been years, and it hurts. Mom set her phone down, her expression more annoyed than concerned. Angela, that's not true. We're proud of both our daughters, but your sister's at a critical stage. Her art could open doors to top schools. Dad chimed in, his tone dismissive. You're too sensitive. She's just more outgoing, so her achievements are more visible. You keep things to yourself. How are we supposed to celebrate what we don't see? I pushed back, my voice cracking. I've told you about my robotics wins, my straight A's. You don't even show up to my events, but you'll fly across the state for her exhibitions. Mom sighed like I was exhausting her. Sweetie, we're busy people. Your time will come. You're still young. Dad nodded, already flipping his magazine open again. Let's not make a big deal out of this. We love you both the same. The conversation ended there with empty promises that nothing changed. If anything, pointing out the unfairness made them more defensive, like I was accusing them of being bad parents. My notebook entries grew longer, detailing every slight, every missed moment. It wasn't just about keeping score, it was about holding on to my truth when they wouldn't see it. I knew then I had to get out. College was my ticket. I applied to the University of Colorado in Boulder, drawn to its engineering program and the distance from Denver just far enough to breathe, but not so far they'd accuse me of running away. When acceptance letters came, I shared the news at dinner. Mom smiled absently, saying, "That's nice, Angela," before turning to discuss my sister's upcoming gallery show. Dad didn't even look up from his steak. That night, I added another entry to my notebook: accepted to Boulder. They didn't care. Moving to Boulder at 18 felt like shedding a heavy coat. I threw myself into my computer science classes, spending late nights in the lab coding projects that made me feel alive. My professors noticed my drive, and one even recommended me for a competitive internship in my sophomore year. I called home to share the news, hoping maybe this time they'd be proud. Dad answered, sounding distracted. An internship. That's great, kid, but did you hear your sister got into that art program in New York? It's a big deal. I swallowed the lump in my throat and hung up. Birthdays in college were no better. My 19th came and went with a single text from Mom sent 2 days late. Sorry, honey, meant to call for your birthday. Been busy helping your sister settle in. My 20th coincided with my sister's first solo art exhibition. They flew to New York for it, posting glowing updates online while I celebrated alone with a cupcake from the campus cafeteria. Patricia, my best friend from back home, was the only one who remembered calling to sing an off-key happy birthday that made me laugh and cry at once. By my junior year, I landed a part-time job at a small tech startup in Boulder, writing code for a machine learning app. The work was grueling, but it gave me purpose. I stopped calling home as often, tired of the same dismissive responses. When I did, the conversations always circled back to my sister, her latest art award, her gallery connections, her bright future. My achievements, like winning a coding hackathon or earning a scholarship, barely registered. Dad once said, tech's a solid field, but it's not like art. Your sister's building a legacy. Patricia became my anchor. We'd video chat late at night, her voice steady as she listened to my frustrations. They're blind, Angela, she'd say. You're killing it, and they don't deserve to know how amazing you are. Her words kept me going, but the hurt didn't fade. I kept adding to my notebook, documenting every ignored milestone, every casual slight. It was my way of holding on to my worth when my family wouldn't see it. By the time I graduated with honors at 22, I'd stopped expecting anything from them. I didn't invite them to my ceremony, knowing they'd probably be busy with my sister's latest showcase anyway. Instead, I moved to Salt Lake City for a full-time role at a growing tech firm, diving into a world where my skills were valued. My first big project, a data analytics tool, earned me praise from my team lead, but I didn't tell my parents. Why bother when they'd just compare it to my sister's next big thing? The distance helped, but the pattern continued. My 23rd birthday passed with a belated group text from Mom: "Happy birthday, Angela. Sorry, we were at your sister's gallery opening yesterday." Each forgotten day added fuel to a plan forming in my mind, not just to succeed, but to make them see what they'd ignored. I wasn't begging for their attention anymore. I was building something bigger, something undeniable, and I'd do it on my own terms. After graduating, I poured everything into my career in Salt Lake City. The tech firm I joined was fast-paced, working on cutting-edge AI tools for healthcare. I started as a junior developer debugging code and learning from senior engineers. My first year, I stayed late most nights teaching myself advanced machine learning techniques while my peers headed to happy hours. It wasn't about outshining anyone, it was about proving to myself I could be more than the overlooked daughter. By 2020, at 27, I'd earned a reputation for solving problems others couldn't. My team lead put me on a project to develop an AI diagnostic tool for hospitals. I spent months refining algorithms, testing datasets, and presenting updates to skeptical clients. When the tool launched, successfully increasing hospital efficiency by 20%, my name started circulating in the office. My colleague Tiffany, a sharp-witted data scientist who'd become a close ally, pulled me aside after a meeting. "You're killing it, Angela. Why don't you brag about this stuff?" I shrugged, thinking of my family's dismissive reactions. "Not everyone cares," I said. She raised an eyebrow but didn't push. That project caught the eye of Andrew Hayes, the company's CTO and a tech veteran known for spotting talent. He called me into his office one afternoon, his walls lined with patents and industry awards. "Angela, your work on the diagnostic tool was exceptional," he said, leaning back in his chair. "You've got a knack for seeing what others miss. Don't let anyone make you think otherwise." His words hit hard, not just praise, but a reminder to value myself. He became my mentor, pushing me to take on bigger challenges and live for my own goals, not anyone else's approval. Over the next 2 years, I climbed the ranks, leading a small team on a new AI startup project within the company. We built a platform that predicted patient outcomes using real-time data, a game changer for emergency rooms. I worked weekends, skipped vacations, and rewrote code until it was perfect. Tiffany was my sounding board, always ready to brainstorm solutions or call out my perfectionism with a laugh. "You're building an empire, Angela," she'd say over coffee. "Own it." Her confidence in me felt like a shield against the doubts my family had planted. In 2023, a major healthcare conglomerate approached us to buy the startup. I led the negotiations, presenting our platform's impact to their board. When they offered a $100 million deal, I knew my share would be life-changing. After taxes and team splits, my bonus came to $8 million, more money than I'd ever imagined. I sat in my apartment staring at the contract, heart racing. My first instinct was to call my parents to finally hear them say they were proud. But then I remembered Dad's voice from years ago. "Tech's fine, but your sister's art is a legacy." I set the phone down. I didn't tell my family about the deal. Not Mom, not Dad, not my sister. They didn't deserve to know, not after years of brushing off my wins. Instead, I confided in Tiffany over drinks at a quiet bar. "8 million, she whispered, eyes wide. "Angela, this is your moment. What's the plan?" I leaned back, a smile creeping in. "Something big. Something they can't ignore." She grinned, sensing my resolve. "Let's make it epic. How about a social media flex post, something that screams, 'You've made it,' without saying a word to them?" We spent weeks brainstorming. Tiffany suggested buying a property, a statement of success that would hit home. I'd always dreamed of a mountain retreat, a place to escape and feel free. She pulled up listings for Aspen, showing me sprawling estates with views of snow-capped peaks. "Imagine posting a photo in front of your own mansion," she said. "Caption it something bold, like you're throwing their favoritism back in their faces." I loved the idea. Not just a house, but a way to show I didn't need their validation. Andrew weighed in during one of our mentorship meetings. "You've built this success on your own terms," he said. "Whatever you do next, make it for you, not to prove anything to anyone else." His advice stuck, but I couldn't shake the urge to make my family see what they'd missed. Tiffany and I refined the plan. I'd buy a property, wait for my next birthday, the day they'd inevitably forget, and post a photo that would spark a reaction. No direct confrontation, just a move so bold they'd have to face their neglect. By early 2024, I was ready. I contacted a real estate agent in Aspen and narrowed down a list of properties. One stood out, a modern 6-bedroom estate with floor-to-ceiling windows and a private trail to the mountains. It was listed at $7.5 million, within my budget after the bonus. I kept it secret, even from Patricia, wanting to surprise her later with the full story. Every step, reviewing contracts, meeting lenders, felt like claiming a piece of my worth. My notebook, now a thick record of years of being sidelined, sat on my desk as a reminder of why I was doing this. The closer my 32nd birthday got, the clearer my plan became. I wouldn't remind my family, wouldn't drop hints. I'd let them forget, just like always. Then I'd post the photo, a single image of me in front of my new Aspen home, captioned "To cut deep." Tiffany helped craft it. "Special child celebrates alone." Again. It was sharp, deliberate, a mirror to their favoritism. The The stage was set and I was ready to make them see me not as the forgotten daughter, but as someone who'd built an empire they couldn't dismiss. My 32nd birthday arrived on a crisp spring morning in Salt Lake City. I woke up to sunlight streaming through my apartment windows, but no messages from my family. Not a single text call or email. Just like every year they'd forgotten. I didn't remind them, didn't drop hints in our group chat buzzing with plans for my sister's latest art gallery opening. Instead, I took the day off work, a quiet rebellion, and finalized the biggest move of my life. I'd spent weeks working with an Aspen real estate agent signing papers for the 6-bedroom mountain estate I'd chosen. The deal closed 2 days before my birthday, funded by my $8 million bonus from the startup sale. The house was stunning, sleek lines, a stone fireplace, and a deck overlooking the Rockies. I drove up that morning, keys in hand, heart pounding with a mix of excitement and defiance. Standing in the empty living room, I felt a surge of power. This was mine, built without their approval or attention. Back in Salt Lake City that afternoon, I sat with my laptop ready to execute the plan Tiffany and I had crafted. I chose a photo from the morning, a shot of me standing on the estate's deck, the mountains glowing behind me. The caption was deliberate, sharp, special child celebrates alone. Again. I hesitated for a moment, my thumb hovering over the post button. This wasn't just a photo, it was a statement, a mirror held up to years of neglect. I hit post on Instagram, set my phone down, and waited. The notifications started within minutes. Friends liked and commented, gushing over the house, asking if it was mine. Then came my family. My sister's comment popped up first. Whose house is this? Stop showing off. Mom followed. Angela, where are you? Call me now. Dad's was blunt. This is irresponsible. Where did you get money for this? Their words dripped with disbelief, as if I couldn't possibly have achieved something this big. Each comment fueled my resolve, proof they'd taken the bait. Patricia, my best friend, was ready. She'd agreed to back me up online, a witness to my stand. She liked my post and commented, "Looks like Angela's thriving, happy birthday, queen." Her words sparked more reactions, friends piling on with birthday wishes, drowning out my family's outrage. My sister posted again, more heated, "You're making a scene on purpose. This isn't about your birthday." I didn't respond. Let them stew, I thought. By evening, my phone lit up with missed calls, 3 from Mom, 2 from Dad, even 1 from my sister. I ignored them all, savoring the silence. Mom sent a text, "Angela, we need to talk. This house thing is out of hand. Dinner tomorrow at our place, 7 sharp. No excuses." I stared at the message, a grim smile forming. They thought they could summon me, demand answers like I was still the invisible daughter. Not this time. I met Tiffany at a coffee shop the next morning to prepare. She scrolled through the comments, laughing at my family's panic. "They're freaking out because you didn't ask their permission," she said, sipping her latte. "This is perfect. You've got them rattled." I nodded, flipping through my notebook, now a thick record of every forgotten birthday, every slight. "I'm ready," I told her. "Tomorrow I'm laying it all out. No holding back." Tiffany raised her cup in a mock toast to teaching them a lesson they won't forget. I spent the rest of the day planning my words, rehearsing how I'd confront them. My notebook was my evidence, pages filled with dates and details, birthdays, ignored achievements, dismissed years of being sidelined. I wasn't going to beg for their attention anymore. This dinner would be my stage, not theirs. I thought back to Andrew's advice, live for yourself, but this wasn't just about me anymore. It was about showing them what they'd lost by choosing my sister over me. The closer the dinner got, the calmer I felt. I wasn't nervous, not like when I was 16, pleading for them to see me. This time, I had proof of my worth, the house, the bonus, the life I'd built. My family's furious comments showed they couldn't ignore me now. They'd walked right into the trap I'd set, exposing their neglect for the world to see. Tomorrow I'd face them head-on, armed with years of truth and a resolve they couldn't break. The dinner was set for 7 at my parents' Denver home, a place I hadn't visited in months. I pulled into the driveway behind my sister's sleek convertible, my stomach tight but my resolve steady. I rang the doorbell instead of using my key, a small act to remind myself I wasn't just their daughter anymore. Mom opened the door, her face a forced smile. "Angela, good you're here. Come in." The air inside was heavy, the dining room table set with her best china, like this was a formal event and not a reckoning. Dad stood by the bar cart pouring a drink, his jaw tight. My sister sat scrolling her phone, barely glancing up. The tension was palpable, but no one spoke until we sat down with plates of roasted chicken and asparagus. Dad broke the silence, his voice clipped. "So Angela, care to explain that Instagram post? Whose house is that, and where did you get the money?" I sipped my water, meeting his eyes. "It's mine. I bought it with my own money, 7.5 million, paid with a bonus from work." My sister's fork hit her plate. 7.5 million. That's ridiculous. You're just flaunting to make us look bad. Mom's eyes widened, her voice sharp. Angela, that's a huge decision. Why didn't you tell us? I leaned back, pulling my notebook from my bag, its worn pages a testament to years of hurt. Why would I? You've never cared about my wins. Let me remind you. I opened the notebook, reading entries aloud. May 2010, my 11th birthday forgotten because of my sister's dance competition. May 2014, my 15th sent to grandma's for her art academy tour. May 2017, my 18th texted a day late because of her valedictorian party. My voice stayed steady each date, a knife. I've got pages of these going back to when I was 10. Every year you prioritized her. My awards, my internships, my graduation, none of it mattered. Dad's face reddened. That's unfair. We've supported both our daughters. You're blowing this out of proportion. Mom jumped in, her tone defensive. Your sister's career is at a critical point. Art is competitive, and we had to focus on her opportunities. My sister shifted, finally speaking. Angela, I didn't know it was that bad. But you never said anything. And this house stunt. It's like you're trying to embarrass us. I laughed, sharp and bitter. Embarrass you? I posted one photo of my own home, bought with my own money, and you're the ones who lost it online. That's not my fault, it's yours for never seeing me. I flipped to a recent page. Last year, my 23rd birthday, belated text because of her gallery opening. You didn't even call, but her art show got a catered gala with 100 guests. Tell me, when was the last time you celebrated me? Mom's eyes filled with tears, but her words were weak. We didn't mean to make you feel less important. We thought you were fine on your own. Dad cut in, his lawyer voice firm. Buying a mansion without telling us is reckless. You should have consulted us. I shook my head. Consult you so you could tell me it's not as important as her next exhibit. I'm done waiting for you to care. My sister tried again, softer. I'm sorry, Angela. I didn't realize how much we hurt you. Can we fix this? For a moment, I saw guilt in her eyes, but it wasn't enough. You knew, I said. You saw the parties, the attention, and you took it. I've spent years hoping you'd notice me. I'm not hoping anymore. I closed my notebook, standing. I'm done with this family. You don't get to claim my success now that it's too big to ignore. Dad stood too, his voice rising. You're being dramatic. We've done everything for our kids. I didn't flinch. You did everything for her. I did this for myself. I grabbed my coat, walking to the door. Mom called after me, her voice breaking. Angela, please, we can do better. I turned, my words final. You had 32 years. I'm not giving you 33. Driving away, I felt lighter than I ever had. I blocked their numbers that night, every text and call cut off. Back in Salt Lake City, I focused on my new life. Patricia came to visit the Aspen house, bringing wine and a housewarming gift, a set of candles that filled the living room with a warm glow. Tiffany joined us for a weekend, toasting to my freedom on the deck under a starry sky. They were my chosen family, the ones who saw me when my blood family didn't. I started hosting friends at the estate, turning it into a sanctuary of laughter and connection. Work kept thriving. My team at the tech firm landed another major project, and I felt more confident than ever. The pain of my family's neglect didn't vanish, but it no longer defined me. I'd built a life that was mine, unshackled from their expectations. Looking back, I learned that your worth isn't tied to anyone's approval, not even your family's. I used to think if I just tried harder, they'd see me, but waiting for that only kept me small. Cutting them out wasn't easy, but it was freedom. If you're in a family that overlooks, you know this. You don't need their validation to shine. Recognize the signs of neglect, early choose people who lift you up and build a life that's yours. That's the lesson I carry, and I hope it resonates with you. Thank you for listening to my story. If it hit home, please subscribe and share your own experiences in the comments. Let's build a community that celebrates everyone's worth.
Not hello. Not, we're sorry to show up unannounced. Just that, heavy, cold, and dropped like a bomb on my kitchen table. My mom pushed a manila folder toward me. It's worse than we thought. We're in serious trouble, Riley. My dad stood behind her, arms crossed, eyes already angry. We need you to step up for the family. I glanced at the paperwork. It wasn't official, not at first glance. Just printouts of loan balances, interest rates, vague statements. Mom's voice cracked. The money's gone. The payments are months overdue. We could lose everything. You have a house, Riley. You can help. We need you to sell it, Dad added. You're not married, no kids. You can always get another place. I stared at them. This house wasn't a gift. It wasn't inherited or handed down. I bought it with income from my online store, every handmade product, every customer email, every 2 a.m. inventory night.
Me.
And now they wanted it. Mom sniffled. We wouldn't ask if it wasn't urgent. We've already taken a hit co-signing for your brother's dorm back then. We can't risk another collection on our name. There it was. The subtle dig. The reminder that they had helped me once, years ago, with $2,000 toward a college dorm I paid off within 6 months. Dad leaned forward. This store thing of yours, we don't blame you. You tried. But it wasn't enough. The timing, the taxes, whatever it was, we're not angry. We just need to fix it. They weren't asking. They were telling me I was the reason they were struggling. Your small business ruined our finances, Mom said flatly. Now fix it. I should have screamed. Should have flipped the table. Should have told them what I already knew. But instead, I just nodded.
Calm. Cold.
Okay, I said. Mom blinked. Okay, let's go to the bank. I'll sign whatever I need to. But we're doing it the right way, with a manager present. Everything on record. They agreed a little too eagerly. Because they thought they had me. They didn't know I'd spent the last 48 hours rebuilding this exact folder, not with assumptions, but with facts. They didn't know I'd already called the bank and verified the account number they so conveniently forgot. They didn't know I'd asked to speak to the loan officer who opened the file, or that he'd confirmed the truth over a recorded call. Because this debt wasn't mine. The balance wasn't tied to my name. The money wasn't used to cover any business taxes. And the loan had Ethan's signature on it. My brother. The golden boy. The one they never questioned. The one who crashed 2 cars, got bailed out of college debt, and still got a birthday trip to Mexico last year. I didn't say anything as I walked them to the door. I just smiled. Because I wasn't going to argue about my worth. I wasn't going to defend my business. I was going to let the bank manager do it for me. My name is Riley. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because they came to take my house. But I came to take back the truth. And what they find out next will change everything. Being blamed wasn't new. I was always the one who cost too much, asked too many questions, and needed too much attention. My brother Ethan? He was the miracle. The one who could wreck the car and still be met with. He's just under pressure. He'll bounce back. I once came home crying after getting an A-, because I knew it wouldn't be enough. Mom said, "Don't overreact. You're not failing. Yet." Meanwhile, Ethan failed 2 semesters of college and still got a new laptop. They never called it favoritism, but it was always there, in the way they spoke to him, like he was made of potential. And, to me, like I was made of burden. Even when I started my online store, candles, custom home pieces, little things I poured hours of design into, they rolled their eyes. "That's cute," Dad said once. "But when are you going to get a real job?" "It's a hobby, not a future," Mom added. When I made my first $10,000 month, I told no one. Because when you're the family's punching bag, even your success becomes something they'll either minimize or take credit for later. I saved quietly. Bought my home quietly, renovated the guest room into a shipping space, labeled every box with my own hands. Ethan, meanwhile, floated from one dream to the next. First it was crypto, then personal training, then some sports consulting, hustle, where he claimed he'd land professional athletes as clients. All funded by mystery money. Dad once gave him $5,000 to clear his head after a breakup. Mom let him use her credit card just this once, for a drone and GoPro he never used. But when I once asked to split the bill at dinner, you'd think I'd set fire to the table. "You're the one with the business," Mom snapped. "We paid for so much when you were younger. You owe us." I was always in debt to them, emotionally, financially, even spiritually. Because daughters like me aren't raised to thrive. We're raised to repay. So when they came storming into my home blaming me for the family's debt, it wasn't new. It was just louder. The tone was familiar. "You cost us. You failed us. You owe us." But this time, they messed up. because while they assumed Ethan was spotless, I was already staring at his signature. I'd found the loan document 3 days earlier when I called the bank to verify the account. I wasn't even looking for a name. I just wanted the truth. And the bank manager hesitated before saying it. It was taken out last year. Under your parents' joint name, co-signed by Ethan Mercer. For a vehicle. Luxury class. A vehicle? Ethan told them he was driving a loaner from a sponsor. He lied. And that debt, the one they blamed on me, was the result of his sports car joyride. I didn't tell them yet, because they needed to walk into that bank feeling proud, ready to humble me, ready to crush me with paperwork and pressure and guilt. Let them walk in smug. I wanted the silence. I wanted the moment, because this time, they were going to hear the truth. Not from me, from their own damn son. After they left my house, I sat at the kitchen table for a long time, not crying, not panicking, just staring at the folder they left behind. At first glance, it looked convincing: past due balances, lender names, interest rates, minimum payments due. But something didn't sit right. They claimed the debt was tied to missed business taxes, supposedly mine, but I've been using the same small business accountant for 4 years. I knew my books were clean. I paid early. I kept records. My accountant's literal motto was receipts or it didn't happen. So, I did what they never expected. I read.
Carefully.
Line by line. I started cross-referencing the papers with my own records. None of it matched. The debt account wasn't under my EIN. The business name they listed wasn't even mine. It was a shell name I'd never seen. And then came the real tell. A reference number at the top of a loan summary. For digits I didn't recognize. I called my bank and gave them the number. Told them I was trying to verify a supposed lien on my business account. The rep pulled up the file. That's not tied to a business account, ma'am. It's a personal loan. Issued to 2 primary account holders. Joint. I sat up straighter. Whose names? She paused. I'm sorry. I can't share that. I asked to speak to a manager. She transferred me. He answered, older voice, calm tone. I told him the situation, that my parents were blaming me for a debt I knew wasn't mine. There was a long silence before he asked, Are you Riley Mercer? Yes. I can confirm this much. The loan was taken under your parents' name. It was co-signed. Not by you. I didn't breathe. Who co-signed it? I asked. He paused. Then, Ethan Mercer. Signed last June. I almost laughed. Of course it was June. That was when he posted a blurry Instagram story from inside a convertible, captioned, Manifesting what I deserve. I thanked the manager. Asked for a copy of the original paperwork. He agreed, said if I brought my ID and came in person, he'd walk me through the file. I scheduled the appointment for Monday. Then I called Ethan. No answer. So I did what every woman raised in gaslight land learns to do. I baited him. I sent a casual voice message. Hey, just saw mom and dad. They're saying I caused the family debt. I know that's not true, but if you know something I don't, now's the time to tell me. He responded with a voice note 5 minutes later. What he didn't know. I recorded the whole thing. Look, I didn't think it'd blow up like this. I needed the car to look successful, okay? The flipping thing didn't work out, but I had a plan. I was gonna pay it back. Mom and Dad never knew I used their names. But they'd be fine once it was done. Fine? They were about to lose their retirement account. And he thought they'd be fine. I saved the recording. Backed it up twice. Printed the transcript. Because when we walked into that bank, I wasn't just going to clear my name. I was going to return their guilt gift-wrapped in truth. The lobby was too quiet when we walked in. My mother looked polished. Pearls, perfume, false pride. My dad looked serious, like a man ready to make a daughter feel small. I looked calm. Because I wasn't here to argue. I was here to watch the floor fall out from under them. We were escorted into a private meeting room by Mr. Gilliam, the same manager I'd spoken to on the phone. He smiled politely at them. Mr. and Mrs. Mercer, thank you for coming. Ms. Mercer, let's get started. They nodded like they'd done this before. Like they were professionals, respectable, justified, the injured party. Mom placed the manila folder on the table like evidence in court. We're here because Riley agreed to assist with the loan payoff tied to her business. We just need the paperwork finalized to begin the house transfer process. I said nothing. Gilliam flipped open a much thicker, official folder from the bank side. He cleared his throat. There's been some confusion about the debt in question, and we want to clarify it. Mom smiled. Dad tapped his pen. Please, Dad said. Let's make this easy. Gilliam turned a page. Then another. And then, calmly, he slid one paper forward. This is the loan you're referring to. Balance, $82,900. Originally taken out in June of last year. He slid it closer to my parents. Signed by the primary account holders, Mr. and Mrs. Mercer. My parents nodded. And co-signed by. He flipped the page slowly. I watched the moment it hit. Their faces. Frozen.
Pale.
Ethan Mercer. Silence. Gilliam let the page sit there like a brick on the table. Ms. Mercer here is not attached to this loan in any way. There is no business name listed. No tax ID. This was not a business debt. It was a personal loan used for a vehicle, a high-end sports model, based on our underwriting notes. Mom's eyes widened. What? That's not possible. Dad leaned forward. You must be mistaken. Riley's business is the one that. No, Dad. I said quietly. You're mistaken. Ethan took out a loan using your names. You co-signed something you didn't understand. And you let me take the fall for it. They turned to me, mouths open, but I didn't stop. I reached into my bag and pulled out the final nail. And, just in case you need more proof, I pressed play on my phone. Ethan's voice filled the room. They never knew I used their names. But they'd be fine once it was done. Mom gasped. Dad looked like he'd been punched. I let the recording finish. Gilliam, still professional, folded his hands. Given this context, Ms. Mercer has no legal or financial responsibility to this loan. We strongly suggest you consult with your son. And your attorney. I stood up.
Calm.
Unshaken. You came to make me your scapegoat again. You wanted me to sell my home, my life, to cover his mess. And you didn't even bother to check the paperwork. Mom's voice cracked. Riley, we didn't know. You didn't care. I walked out. They didn't follow. They couldn't. Because for once, the evidence spoke louder than their shame. And this time, I didn't have to lift a single finger to burn their house of lies down. I didn't hear from them for 2 days. Not a call. Not a text. Then, on the third morning, I woke up to a frantic voicemail from my dad. It's Ethan. He says you ambushed him. What the hell are you trying to do? You didn't have to play that recording. We could have worked this out like a family. That word again.
Family.
A word they only pulled out when I was useful. I listened to it once, then deleted it. Because here's what they didn't understand. I wasn't trying to destroy Ethan. He'd already done that himself. All I did was let the truth breathe. Later that day, a friend sent me a screenshot from Ethan's private Instagram story, which, clearly, wasn't as private as he thought. It was a close-up of the sports car in question, a matte gray two-door coupe with vanity plates that read playoff. The caption? Guess who finally paid off his ride? #HustlerLife, #grindset. Posted 3 weeks ago. 3
Weeks.
Before my parents showed up at my house crying broke. Before they tried to rip my keys out of my hands to save a lie they didn't even know existed. That image went into my digital evidence folder. Not because I needed it for court, because it was mine. Proof that every time they looked me in the face and said, "You ruined us," they were protecting the real wrecking ball.
And now?
Their golden boy was radioactive. I heard through a mutual cousin that my parents finally confronted him, and it wasn't calm. Mom screamed. Dad threw a coffee mug. Ethan denied it at first, then tried to spin it. I did it for us. I was trying to elevate. It was gonna work. Then, like every coward does when backed into a corner, he blamed them. You should have read what you were signing. For once, the guilt didn't land on me. It landed where it belonged, squarely in the center of the house they built on illusion and convenience. Meanwhile, the bank had begun the collection process. The loan was too far gone. Their credit? Tanking. I got another voicemail from Mom. Her voice hoarse, unfamiliar. We were wrong. About all of it.
About you.
We should have asked questions. We should have looked harder. We didn't know. No, they didn't. Because they never bothered to know. They were too busy believing Ethan's smoke while trying to suffocate my fire. But the damage wasn't just inside the house now. It was leaking. One of their friends, the chairwoman of the neighborhood board, found out about the debt. Apparently, she overheard part of the bank blow up while waiting for her appointment. By the end of the week, their shame was making the rounds. Polite whispers like razor blades. They tried to steal from their daughter. Thought they raised a CEO, but it was just a con man in Gucci. You know Riley paid for that house herself, right? Girl built an empire while they backed a liar. I didn't say a word. Didn't post.
Didn't subtweet.
Didn't gloat. Because I didn't need to. Their legacy was falling apart in real time. And for once, it had nothing to do with me. I thought Ethan would fight. Lie harder. Spin faster. Find some twisted way to make himself the victim, or worse, the hero. But when I saw him next, he looked hollow. It was at a family cookout. Not mine. I don't host those anymore. But a distant cousin invited me, not knowing the drama, just trying to be polite. I went curious. Not for revenge. For confirmation. To see the boy they worship standing in the wreckage they used to call potential. And there he was. Hoodie. Sunglasses. Slouched shoulders. He didn't even park the sports car. Because it had been repossessed. Turns out, after the bank launched full collection efforts and placed liens on my parents' accounts, the repo company swooped in fast. The car he bought on their names?
Gone.
The business he said he was launching? Didn't exist beyond a Canva pitch deck and 3 fake LLC documents. His Instagram? Scrubbed. Deleted. His friends? Silent. The moment the money ran out, so did the crowd. But I didn't go near him. I just watched. From across the lawn, he glanced at me once, and that was all it took. His shoulders sank even lower. He knew I wasn't coming over. Because this time, he had to sit in it. Alone. The same way I did when I was 25, curled on the floor of my first shipping room, crying because a customer threatened to sue over a broken candle and I had $6.19 to my name. I sat in it, built through it, owned it, and no one, not even my family, offered me a lifeline. Now, it was Ethan's turn. Later that night, my parents tried to call me. Again. This time it was Dad's voice on the voicemail. We can't believe how blind we were. He fooled all of us. I thought he had it under control.
Pause.
And we took it out on you. You didn't deserve that.
Pause.
I know it's too late. But we're proud of what you've built. I saved the message. Not because I needed it, but because I want a record of what finally broke them. Not my failures. Their own faith in the wrong child. They gambled everything on Ethan. And when it all burned, they came running to the daughter they left in the cold. But I didn't open the door. I didn't rage. I didn't post screenshots. I didn't demand apologies on my knees. I just kept moving. I had client calls, inventory to restock, an upcoming launch with a sustainable brand that had been following me for 2 years. My life had outgrown them. And that was the real revenge. Not watching Ethan fall, but realizing I didn't care whether he got back up. Because I was no longer living in reaction to their chaos. I was no longer the sibling in the shadows. I was the one with stability, peace, control, and no more need to prove a single thing. Ethan's collapse wasn't my triumph. My boundary was. I didn't plan to go public. For a long time, I believed dignity was quiet. That growth meant walking away with your head high and your mouth shut. But silence is only powerful if you chose it. And mine was forced. For years, I swallowed the guilt, the blame, the shame of being the problem child. I let them call my business a hobby. I let them call my stability luck. I let them say I should be grateful they let me stay. I was done letting them say anything. So I wrote a post. Not a rant. Not revenge porn. Just a clear, honest caption above a photo of my first apartment floor, covered in bubble mailers and handwritten thank you cards from customers. I started here. Alone. Laughed at, overlooked, called a dreamer. Years later, my family tried to take the home I bought to cover a debt I didn't create. They said it was mine. It wasn't. I stayed silent to keep the peace. But silence doesn't protect you. It protects them. I'm not silent anymore. The post blew up. Not viral in a celebrity way, viral in a real way. Women commented. I was the scapegoat too. My brother stole my credit score. Thank you for saying this. They said I was selfish when I refused to bail the family out. I cried reading this. People didn't just read my story.
They saw themselves in it.
That's when the DMs started flooding in. Then podcast invites. Then panel requests. A week later, I sat down on a podcast titled Quiet No More and spoke into the mic for the first time without trembling. My name is Riley. I built my life in silence because speaking up made me the villain. But if they call you a problem every time you ask to be respected, maybe the problem isn't you. Maybe the problem is what they want you to accept. That clip alone got 2 million plays. The next day, I launched a new branch of my store. Not yours. Statement pieces. Minimalist designs. Every product labeled with phrases like, daughter, not doormat. Silence was never consent. Not the backup plan. Built without permission. It sold out in 4 hours. I donated part of the proceeds to a fund that helps women reclaim financial identity after family credit abuse. Something I wish I'd had. Then I created a space. The Riley Mercer Grant. $5,000 for first-time women entrepreneurs building their business with no support. In the application, one question. What's one thing they said you'd never do? I wasn't just moving on. I was planting flags. Because being erased doesn't mean you stop existing. It just means it's time to paint your story on the walls they tried to push you out of. And when they see your name there, they'll know you didn't just survive. You rewrote the whole script. They asked to meet one last time. Not over the phone. Not through voicemails. In person. We'd like to talk, my mom texted. Face to face. I hesitated. Not out of fear, but calculation. I didn't know them anything. But something in me said, let them see who you became. So I agreed. But not at my home. Not on their terms. I chose the location, my office. The headquarters of a business they once called a cute distraction. The space built on every late-night hustle, every doubted move, every ignored win. When they arrived, they looked nervous. Mom clutched her purse like it was armor. Dad looked older, smaller. Even Ethan came, hands in his pockets, face drawn tight. I offered no hugs, no smiles, just a seat. They sat. The silence was heavier than their apologies could ever be. Dad spoke first. We've been watching. Seeing what you've done. It's impressive. I nodded once. Mom leaned forward. We were wrong. About everything. We blamed you for a mess that wasn't yours. We should have believed you. I said nothing. Ethan cleared his throat. I was selfish. I get it now. I ruined things for everyone, but especially you. I'm sorry, Riley. It all sounded sincere.
Polished.
Almost rehearsed. Then Mom said the thing I knew was coming. We just want to move forward. Start fresh. Be a family again. There it was. The real ask. Not forgiveness. Access. They wanted back in. Back into the comfort. Back into the house they tried to steal. Back into the life I built without them. I stood, walked to the window, then turned and finally spoke. You blamed me, shamed me, tried to take from me, and never once stopped to ask how I was even surviving. They stayed silent. You wanted me to sell my house, to fix a lie someone else wrote, because it was easier to point at the daughter you never understood than to look at the son you raised like royalty. Mom opened her mouth, but I held up a hand. You thought I'd go quietly, that I'd swallow it again. That's what shocked you, not the loan, not the car, not the mess. What shocked you was that I didn't break this time. They all looked away. So I gave them what they came for. A line they never forget. You want to start fresh? Start with yourselves. Because I already did. And it didn't include any of you. Mom started to cry. Ethan said nothing. Dad just nodded, like deep down he finally understood. I walked to the door. Opened it. They left without another word. No drama. No begging. No, we'll change. Just the sound of a door closing behind them. Not slammed. Not locked.
Just done.
That night, I stood in the hallway of my home, the one they tried to take, and looked around.
Light. Clean.
Quiet.
Mine.
My phone buzzed a notification. Order #8/624 confirmed. Then another. Riley Mercer grant recipient number 4 funded. I smiled. Because this was the legacy they never imagined I'd build. One that didn't just survive their absence, it thrived in it. They blamed me for what they were too afraid to face. I didn't fight them. I just showed them who I became when they stopped holding me down. Thursday night. I made spaghetti. Garlic bread. My usual because I was the one who cooked most nights. My mom called it rehearsal for real life. As if I wasn't already living in it. My brother had just come home from college, again after dropping another class. My parents acted like it was no big deal. It's all part of the journey, my dad said. But when I mentioned that I had a meeting the next day with a client who might double my freelancing income, my mom rolled her eyes. Must be nice to sit at home on your computer all day. I paused. It's not easy, but I'm doing okay. I've been helping with. You're not helping, she snapped. You're surviving under our roof. That's when I looked at my dad, hoping, just once, he'd correct her. He didn't. He just kept cutting his food. I should have stopped there. But something in me cracked. Actually, I've been paying more than half the mortgage since last year. The room went silent. Even my brother looked up from his phone. Mom scoffed. What are you talking about? I reached into my pocket and pulled out a folded piece of paper, a printout of my auto-pay confirmation, the one I'd been using every month without fail. Quietly.
Consistently. This.
It comes out on the 4th. Every month. $1,140. From my account, my dad finally looked up. Not with pride. With rage. And what? You want a trophy? You think this house is yours now? No, I said quietly. I just wanted a little respect. That's when Mom stood up. You want respect? You earn it by knowing your place. This is our home. Our rules. You don't like it? She threw her napkin down. Get out. And don't come back. Just like that. No hesitation. No hesitation. I turned to my dad. He didn't even look at me. You heard her. The silence in my throat was louder than any scream. I didn't argue. I didn't cry. I just nodded, stood up from the table, and walked down to my room. I packed one bag. Laptop. Charger. A few clothes. The small envelope of emergency cash I'd been saving, just in case. Turns out just in case was now. I didn't slam any doors.
Didn't yell.
Didn't beg. Didn't leave a note. I left silently. Because when someone tells you you're not welcome, believe them. My name is Tessa. And from wherever you're watching this, stay with me. Because they thought they were cutting me off. But what they really did was cut themselves off from the one person keeping their roof above their heads. And 3 months from that night, they'd remember exactly what it cost them. They liked to say I lived under their roof. Like I was some freeloader on their generosity. But here's the truth. That roof wasn't theirs. Not anymore. It had been refinanced twice. The second time was after my dad lost his job during the pandemic and never fully bounced back. My mom picked up part-time work at a local office, but it barely covered groceries, and my younger brother's tuition was bleeding them dry. They wouldn't admit any of it. Pride came before every unpaid bill. That's where I came in. I had been working as a freelance web designer for about a year and a half. It wasn't flashy, I didn't post about it, didn't brag. I just worked, built Shopify stores, cleaned up code, rebranded small businesses on Instagram. I stacked savings slowly, and when I found out the house was slipping toward default, I stepped in.
Quietly.
One night, I overheard my parents arguing about being a month behind again. So I called the mortgage company the next morning, gave them the account number from an old bill I found on the printer, and asked what I could do. They told me the minimum to stay current. I paid it, $1,140. Then I set it to repeat. Every month, on the 4th. No one knew, because I didn't do it to be praised. I did it because the idea of my family losing the house made me sick. Because even if they didn't say it, I knew no one else could or would help. I even picked up extra clients to make sure I could keep covering it, skipping sleep, saying no to vacations, grinding through edits at 3 a.m. But I was still just the girl in the basement. My mom used to call it letting me stay rent-free, a joke she liked to repeat at family gatherings. No one ever asked what I paid for. No one cared that I handled utilities most months, that I bought my brother's textbooks once, that I kept the Wi-Fi running. They just called me sensitive when I asked for a little space, dramatic when I said I felt invisible, ungrateful when I wanted to move out. And then they told me to get out, like I was taking up space in a life I had helped fund. And what hit me hardest that night wasn't the cruelty, it was the clarity. I had given everything and meant nothing. That's when I shut off the autopay. Same night I left. Logged in, canceled the recurring payment, and marked the property as no longer my residence in the portal. 3 clicks. That's all it took to return the full weight of that roof to their shoulders. They didn't notice, of course. Not yet. Because people who are used to taking without asking never notice when the hand stops giving until it's gone. And when they finally do,
They don't ask why.
they ask how dare you. But me? I didn't answer. I just waited. Because bills don't lie. And neither do empty mailboxes. I left without a fight. Without a bag full of accusations. Without a door slammed behind me. And they didn't even ask where I went. No, are you okay? No, do you have somewhere to stay? No, let's talk when we've all calmed down. Just silence. And that told me everything I needed to know. I moved in with my friend Jules, the only person who'd ever seen how thin I was stretched. She let me stay in her spare room rent-free at first, even though I offered. She said, "You've been taking care of everyone else. Let someone take care of you for once." I almost cried. Not because it was kind, but because it felt unfamiliar. For the first time, I had a space where I wasn't walking on eggshells. Where no one barked orders. Where I wasn't the background character in someone else's perfect family narrative. I set up my desk near the window, lit a $4 candle I couldn't afford before, and worked late into the nights without someone knocking on the door asking when dinner would be ready. The first week after I left, not a single text. Then the second week. Then the third. I thought maybe my brother would reach out. He didn't. Instead, I saw him post a video on Instagram, smiling on the couch, my parents in the background, laughing, eating takeout. Same kitchen table. Same house. Like I never existed. I watched the story and whispered, "There's your ungrateful burden."
Gone.
And no one even blinked. But that's how it always was. I was only visible when something needed fixing. When the car broke down. When the Wi-Fi died. When the loan payment bounced. Now that I was gone and quiet, they could pretend I never mattered. And I let them. Because sometimes the only thing louder than screaming is absence. Meanwhile, I finally started living. I took walks in the middle of the day. Signed 2 new clients. Took myself out to dinner on a Thursday and didn't have to justify it to anyone. Jules taught me how to make cocktails. We laughed, really laughed, like I hadn't since I was 17. I could breathe. I wasn't carrying a house full of resentment and roof leaks on my back anymore. And I knew the day was coming. The day the first unpaid mortgage notice would land in their mailbox. The day they'd check their banking app and see a blank space where my deposit used to be. The day the silence would finally speak. But I didn't reach out. Didn't warn them. Didn't explain. Didn't remind them of what I used to pay. Because if they needed a reminder, they never really valued me to begin with. I let the clock tick. 30 days. 60. 90. And still nothing. Until one morning, as I was stirring sugar into my coffee, My phone lit up with a name I hadn't seen in 3 months.
Dad.
One message. One question. Why didn't you pay the mortgage? I looked at it for a long moment, took a sip of my coffee, then typed back slowly. I thought I wasn't welcome. I hit send. And then, my phone exploded. They thought I was bluffing. That's the only explanation I have for the 3 months of silence that followed after they kicked me out. Because surely, they didn't think the mortgage just paid itself. Or maybe they did. Maybe they were so used to money magically showing up that they truly believed the world would keep spinning even after they threw out the only one turning the gears. But banks don't operate on denial. They operate on due dates. On numbers. On cold, hard facts. The first overdue notice came a month after I canceled my auto pay.
I didn't see it, obviously.
But I knew when it came. Because suddenly, my inbox pinged with an email. Subject: Address discrepancy confirmation. Mortgage statement. It was from the mortgage company, verifying that I had updated my residence and removed my account from all payment responsibilities. I replied, yes, confirmed. I am no longer living at that address. I am not the homeowner. Please direct any further inquiries to the primary borrowers. That was all. One line. And it was like slicing the cord they'd been dangling by. The second notice came 30 days later. That's when the late fees kicked in. When the mortgage company called them directly, not me. When my dad's phone started lighting up with unfamiliar numbers that couldn't be ignored. And yet, still, no one reached out to me. No apology. No, we didn't realize. Just silence. Until that 4th month. Until the moment the final warning arrived. The bright red kind with words like pre-foreclosure and legal action stamped across it. And suddenly, I wasn't invisible anymore. That's when Dad texted, "Why didn't you pay the mortgage?" 7 words. That's all it took to ignite the fire they'd been sitting on for 90 days like it wasn't real. I replied, I thought I wasn't welcome. Within 5 minutes, I had 3 missed calls, 2 long texts from Mom, 1 voicemail from my brother saying, "You should have told us you were serious." Serious? I had walked out with 1 bag and 0 money owed to anyone in that house. The only serious thing was their assumption that I'd continue to finance the very people who threw me away. That same afternoon, I logged into the mortgage account, not to pay, but to watch. Their balance was now nearly $4,000 overdue. They'd never seen that number, because I'd shielded them from it. I used to schedule payments ahead of time, paid their late fees before they even got notifications. They thought they were staying afloat when really, I was the life raft. And the second I stepped off, the ship started sinking. Mom finally called me that evening. I didn't answer. She left a voicemail, her voice trembling, half crying. "We made a mistake.
Please, Tessa. This is your family.
We didn't know how much you were doing. We thought you'd always be here." That last line stuck with me. We thought you'd always be here. That was the problem. They never saw me. They saw my usefulness, my wallet, my quiet loyalty, my ability to hold things together while they chipped away at my worth. Now, they were seeing the cracks, not in the house, in the story they'd been telling themselves. And for once, I wasn't patching it up for them. I don't know what exactly I expected after I sent the message. I thought I wasn't welcome. But I didn't expect this. Within minutes, my phone lit up like it had caught fire. Police Garlight 8 missed calls. Police Garlight 2 voicemails. Police Garlight 17 unread texts. All from them. The parents who told me to get out like I was a stranger. The people who turned their backs while I packed the only life I had into a duffel bag. Now I was valuable again. Now they remembered I existed. Funny how the threat of losing a house finally did what love, effort, and silent sacrifice never could. Made them care. The messages weren't even apologetic at first. They were frantic, scattered, self-centered. "Tessa, this isn't how families act. You could have just said something. We're drowning here. Please don't let us lose everything." And my favorite, "You're overreacting. We didn't really mean it when we told you to leave." Didn't mean it? They said it with teeth. With certainty. They didn't whisper it in anger. They shouted it like a verdict. But now, with a foreclosure letter staring them in the face and credit scores slipping into the basement, suddenly their words were negotiable. I listened to the first voicemail from Mom. Her voice was shaking, the kind of panic that only shows up when comfort dies. "Tessa, we're sorry. We didn't know you were paying so much. Your father is calling the bank, but we're behind. We need your help.
Please.
Let's fix this. As a family." Family. They loved pulling that word out when they were in trouble. But where was that word when I was working 14-hour days just to keep the lights on in their home? Where was family when they dismissed my business, my work, my voice? Where was family when they let me walk out without asking if I had a place to sleep? The second voicemail was shorter. My dad. A man who rarely spoke unless it was a command.
"Tessa."
"We misjudged. I'll admit that. But the house is in real danger. Can you come home? Just for now." That was the one that almost made me laugh. Come home? The house they claimed I didn't belong in? The one I paid for quietly, month after month, while they looked through me like fogged glass. The same house where my worth ended the second my payments did?
No.
They didn't want me. They wanted the money, the roof, the rescue, the return of the invisible daughter who solved everything in silence. But that girl? She was gone, replaced by someone who finally understood her value. And this version of me wasn't going back. I typed one message. No flourish, no anger, no lecture, just clarity. You said I didn't belong. I believed you. I hit send, blocked the numbers. Not out of revenge, out of peace. Because sometimes closure isn't a conversation. It's a boundary. And they were finally on the other side of it. I thought I'd feel guilty. That's what years of being the family fixer trains you to believe, that their pain is somehow your fault. That if they're falling, you're supposed to catch them. But when the notice of public foreclosure hit the county's website, I felt nothing. Not anger, not joy, just clarity. Because this was never my mess. This was the storm they brewed, when they dismissed my work, silenced my presence, and threw me out like an old receipt.
And now?
The roof was finally caving in. Jules texted me a screenshot. "Is this your parents' house?" Flushed face. It was a listing from a local foreclosure watch group, one of those community accounts that posts every pre-auction property. The caption was brutal. 4-bedroom, 2-bath home. Delinquent. Current owners 90+ days late. Auction pending. Underneath were comments. Wasn't that the Mercer's place? Didn't their daughter move out? Yikes. They always acted so put together. Their shame wasn't private anymore. It was searchable. A week later, my brother tried to DM me. "You proved your point. Can you please help them now?"
This isn't just about them.
"It's our family home." I didn't respond. Because if I was worth nothing to them when I was quiet, giving, and invisible, I'm not about to become their ATM now that everyone else can see what I carried. Another voicemail came, this time from Mom. Soft, crumbling. "Your father won't speak. He just sits there. We have 30 days before we're out. We're not asking for charity. Just a second chance." That's all I ever wanted from them. A second chance to be seen.
Heard. Valued.
And they waited until their entire foundation cracked to offer me the very thing they withheld when I needed it most. They didn't want me back. They wanted their comfort back. The kind I paid for. The kind they never thanked me for. The kind they told their friends they earned themselves. That's the part no one saw. The family barbecues where they bragged about weathering the economy. The church announcements where they smiled and talked about blessings. All funded by the girl in the basement. The girl they erased. I received a formal email from the mortgage company a few days later, not as a borrower, but as a listed previous payer. "We are finalizing proceedings. The property is scheduled for auction on the 3rd of next month. If you are interested in acquiring it, please contact us." That last line sat with me. Because yes, I could have bought the house. I had enough in savings. I had the credit, the income, the means. But why would I buy a house soaked in gaslighting and guilt? Why would I go back to a place that was never truly mine? I deleted the email. Then I opened a new one, a contract for a loft space downtown. One with high ceilings, clean windows, room for a real studio, and a reading nook I never had space for before. And, in that space, I'd build something new. Not from debt, not from duty,
From choice.
while they watched the house I once held up with my own bare hands slip through theirs. The first night in my new place, I stood barefoot in the middle of the living room with the lights off. No furniture yet. No curtains. Just moonlight across the floor and silence thick with peace. And I whispered to no one, This is mine. My name on the lease. My money on the deposit. My sweat behind every cent of it. No one co-signed. No one covered. No one guilt me into being thankful. And still, I had more freedom than I ever did under a roof my name wasn't even on. The first night, I ordered takeout and ate it sitting on the floor, chopsticks, soy sauce, and a smile that wouldn't leave my face. I slept on a mattress with no frame, surrounded by half-unpacked boxes and soft playlists playing from my phone. But I never felt richer, because I wasn't paying for someone else's comfort anymore. I was paying for peace. While my parents were scrambling to figure out where they'd go next, trying to stall foreclosure with negotiation letters and empty promises, I was building. I launched a new website, rebranded my freelance business, shared pieces of my story on a personal blog post titled, Daughter, Not a Lifeline. It wasn't a rant, just truth.
Clear and sharp.
They called me selfish when I stopped carrying them, but maybe what they meant was, we liked you better when you had no boundaries. I didn't name them.
Didn't need to.
The post took off anyway. It was shared on forums, Reddit threads, women's business pages. Hundreds of comments poured in.
Same.
I was the family's emotional janitor. My parents cut me off when I wouldn't co-sign for their second car. You're not alone. Thank you for saying this. I wasn't trying to go viral. I was just finally speaking out loud the things so many daughters like me are taught to keep quiet, that you can love your family and still need distance. That being born into a house doesn't mean you owe it your entire adulthood. That walking away isn't betrayal, when staying would mean self-erasure. I started getting podcast invites. One brand asked to feature my quote on a hoodie. Another platform offered to license my blog post as part of a resilience course. But the best moment was when a customer, a woman who'd bought from my store years ago, messaged me. Your candles used to make my house feel warm. Now your words make me feel safe in my own decisions. Thank you. I cried reading that, because for so long, I thought my value came from how much I could hold, how much I could give, how much I could endure without breaking. Now I knew. My value came from the truth I refused to bury anymore. And my worth was no longer negotiable. They tried one last time. A letter, handwritten, folded into thirds. No return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable, my mother's. Jules found it sticking out of our shared mailbox. Tessa, this came for you. Want me to burn it? I laughed.
No.
I want to read it. One last time. I sat at the kitchen table, unfolded the page, and read the way you read something you already know won't change anything. It started off soft. We miss you. We were wrong. Then it slipped into justification. Things were stressful. We didn't realize how much pressure we put on you. Then came the ask. We've found a small rental, but the deposit is a lot. If there's any way you can... I stopped reading. Even now, after everything, it wasn't about me. It was about what I could fix.
They didn't want me.
They wanted the girl who used to patch their leaks, pay their bills, keep her head down, and her voice low. But she didn't live here anymore. I took out a sheet of paper.
Clean.
Unfolded. Unapologetic. And I wrote, Mom, Dad, you told me to leave. You made it clear I was not welcome. So I left. And in doing so, I finally saw the truth. That my presence was only appreciated when it came with a payment. That my silence was only respected when it served your comfort. That family only mattered when I was the one bleeding for it. You did not lose your home because I walked away. You lost it the moment you believed I was disposable. I did not abandon you. I simply believed you. And now that I've built peace without you, I'm choosing not to let you tear it down again. I won't be your solution.
Not now.
Not ever again. Tessa. I folded the letter, placed it back in the same envelope, and mailed it the next morning. I don't know what they did after they read it. Maybe they were angry. Maybe they cried. Maybe, finally, they understood. But I didn't need to know. Because closure doesn't mean they're satisfied. It means I am. A week later, I sat on the balcony of my new place with a cup of tea and a quiet that didn't demand anything from me. The world didn't fall apart. My business was growing. The peace in my chest was mine. Earned, protected, unbothered. Then my phone pinged. A new customer order. 2 candles, 1 tote bag, and a note card with a custom message. For my daughter. I told her to leave once. She hasn't come back. I'm going to fix that. Thank you for showing me what I did wrong. I stared at it for a long moment. Some stories don't get a happy ending, but sometimes they become warnings. And sometimes they become mirrors. That was enough for me. They said I wasn't welcome. So I built a life they'll never be invited into.